I'm sharing a reading experience. I'm reading from a book called What I Heard, and I'm sharing it with you now. Today, I will go through the introduction and the first time period of 1900 BC. I hope you listen and receive something worthwhile from this. This video might inspire you to read what I did. It's my hope that you'll search the best books and gain information and ideas to help you to become a better person. The more you read, the better you'll think. And the better you think, the more you'll be able to face life's challenges successfully. The pick and parcel approach of reading the Old Testament has always astounded me. Most readers who say they've read the Bible will often go through Genesis and will know Psalms 23. The truly daring will venture into some verses of Proverbs, Isaiah, and perhaps a few other books. But a reader with an end to end understanding is rare. The Old Testament is too daunting and irrelevant in the minds of many people. This need not be the case. This method of incomplete reading is very strange to me because there are many other holy writs that have their foundation based on the Old Testament. Paul's letters that form most of the New Testament's doctrines, for example, are based on his extensive study and understanding of the law of Moses and various writings of the prophets. Paul's doctrines center around the lessons of the Old Testament. Paul, unfortunately, didn't have a direct relationship with the mortal Messiah or John the Baptist, as you might think. Paul never had the opportunity to walk or talk with either of these. The Old Testament, it's written in a poetic style which allows the reader to have different experiences and understanding of its content with each reading. It is unlike any other spiritual writing. Most spiritual writings speak to the reader in more or less direct terms, even if you keep noticing new things or your understanding changes. The Old Testament, on the other hand, seems to me to be built more like an onion. As you read the Old Testament again and again, another layer is peeled back, revealing something new. In my recent reading of the Old Testament, I wrote what I heard. These are not necessarily quotes, but rather an understanding of what I was reading. They are written in a form of life lessons learned in a style and manner that makes sense to me. You'll notice a few things about the arrangement of this book. First, the order of the book is not the order you'll find it in the Old Testament. The arrangement follows time, as I understand it, rather than the traditional order. At times, the dates are an estimated year, with the actual historical time frame being unknown. Other years given are a range or an estimated start or ending year of the narration. Other dates I use are precise because of the reference to verifiable events and calendars that that particular book refers to. Secondly, you will notice the wording of each book might not be the order you'll find them in the original. Rather, the order that I use for each individual book of the Old Testament is in a sequence that makes sense to me. The wording is how I would describe each life lesson if I had written the original rather than how past writers penned it. Thirdly, you will notice that much is left out. I flipped open one of my Bibles and saw that the Old Testament ended on page 1184. This narrative is much shorter than the Old Testament. Like life, I made the choice not to address certain things and pursued other ideas that caught my attention. The ideas I pursued are often summarized. At other times, I've combined texts that I've deemed so closely related that I considered them one book, such as the first and second Chronicles of Ezra, and Nehemiah, Ezra's spiritual supervisor. With that in mind, I would like you to make your own investigation into the things that I write in this book. After all, this is only what I decided to write, which might not be the message you need to see. With prayerful study of the complete Old Testament, it's my belief that you'll find a message that you need to hear. There are many versions of the Bible written in different styles. In some older versions, such as the King James Version, it is much more poetic sounding, but it's harder to understand. Newer versions, such as the Good News Bible, use a more modern language style but can convey a slightly different message. I believe that it is important to keep these differences in mind. Lastly, I want you to know that I did not go to a higher institution of learning and receive a degree in Hebrew, Greek, ancient philosophy, or the like, but rather I've studied these things out of curiosity. If you have a degree in one of those studies, I'm sure you'll disagree at least on something that I've said and probably will have good reason for doing so. For example, you might say something like, that refers to the Babylonian sword, not to the end of the world. I would reply, types and shadows of the past are a reflection of our future. I'm not a scholar of the Bible, I'm a lover of the Bible. What that means is I'm not trying to figure out the earthly origins and the exact intent of the author. How I look at all scripture is that life experience is eternal and repeats itself over and over. I call this type and shadow. In other words, when I'm reading, I'm asking how this applies to me and what these words teach me. I implore you to do the same. Explore the words and ask yourself how the words apply to you. Here is what I heard. Job remains faithful. I lost everything in one day. My children all died at the same time. My entire wealth was completely destroyed like falling dominoes. My friends turned their backs on me all at once. I struggled my whole life and lived a life of devotion to God. Now I'm sick with some painful skin disease and find only criticism. People don't feel sorry for me. They imagine I must have done some great evil to deserve all this because what a man plows and plants, he also reaps. They have blatantly accused me, saying, the truth remains that you do not prosper because you are wicked. They would accuse a leaf for being blown about by the wind. I don't understand why this is happening, or if there is no reason at all. What I do know is that others have suffered and others will suffer. I understand that for some reason, all life is struggle and there is both good and bad in it. I ask myself, should I only accept good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? I then realize I must accept life as it comes to me, no matter what it holds. Even if God slays me personally, I have made the choice to trust in his plan for me. The living Redeemer's words are more necessary to me than food. Does misfortune change that? Should my attitude change? There seems to be wicked people all around me whose existence is satisfying, but one day that sweet life will be gone. What then? They now enjoy the sweet taste of wickedness, but does that mean they will go on to enjoy milk and honey with God? No. Their good life will be forgotten. It will be gone. It will be like a pleasant night dream that is past, and they will find themselves in the toil of a hard day. They will say to God, go away, we don't want your ways. We want no part of you. Why should we obey? Look at Job. What good will it do us to pray? They reason that all their prosperity is of their own doing. What they don't realize is God's treasure cannot be seen even by the best eyes. They don't realize that God's wisdom is not among the living, yet It is more valuable than the purest gold. All too late, it will be apparent to the wicked that wisdom included the fear of God, and forsaking evil demonstrated a true understanding of what was to come. I'm influenced by what I hear, see, and read. I take it in, mix it around a bit, and spew some of it back out. Sometimes I add chocolate sauce with a cherry on top. This book is the same. I read, but I might come up with more of a conclusion than you might. It's my suggestion that if you find this material interesting, you'll read it for yourself to see if you focus in on the same things. My bet is that you'll see something slightly, if not altogether, different. I wish you the best in your happy readings. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, au revoir.